Welcome to Managerial Economics Revision Class 2023, May. So we're looking at preparation for the 2023 paper for tomorrow, but based on the previous exam and test papers as well as the handout. So I'm going to take my time to explain a number of principles, both theory and calculations. So I'll start with easy questions that everyone could or should understand. So maybe we start with the theoretical part, then I'll go back to the calculation part. So question number 5 is asking about indifference curves. So the question is, what would be the implication of indifference curve intersecting each other? What is the implication of indifference curves intersecting each other? Okay, to start with, we need to understand what indifference curves are. To start with, we need to understand what indifference curves are. So what are indifference curves? Anyone? What are indifference curves? And what are the characteristics of indifference curves in case it comes in a slightly different manner? So I'll define indifference curves as follows. Number 1, indifference curves are simply curves that are graphical in nature, which are used in economics to depict an individual's preferences for different combinations of goods and bundles. Indifference curves will show all possible combinations of two goods, X and Y, that provide the same level of satisfaction. There are a number of characteristics that indifference curves have. Number 1, the slope in the indifference curve shows our marginal rate of substitution, which indicates the exchange that one consumer is willing to have for the other. So the slope is negative. Secondly, indifference curves are downsloping, typically implying that the law of diminishing marginal returns of substitution occurs, where the consumer, as they increase 1 unit of one good, they'll give up fewer units of the other. So it is convex, not concave. It's convex to the origin, which represents the law of diminishing marginal utility, where the consumer will consume more of a particular good, at the same time decreasing consumption for the other. The other property that indifference curves have is that they offer higher, the indifference curve, which is furthest away from the origin, offers higher satisfaction than the one below it. So I can summarize them as follows. What are key properties of indifference curves? They're downward sloping, they're convex, they don't intersect. The indifference curve on the far right has higher satisfaction. Then indifference curves, we can look at it in the context of the marginal rate of substitution. Okay. So you need to know these properties of indifference curves. Some of you survive just on the theoretical aspects. Quick, can you remember? I've said indifference curves are what? Downsloping. Number 1. Number 2, indifference curves are convex. Number 3, the indifference curves don't intersect each other. If they were to intersect, it would imply that a consumer would simultaneously achieve 2 different levels of satisfaction, which is not possible. So if you're going to follow indifference curves, look like this. So one person will have the same satisfaction at point A and point B, but at different levels, but the same satisfaction. So in different scales, which will look like this, simply means one person can enjoy at two different levels, which is not possible. So in different scales, don't have this aspect in themselves. Are we together? So this is what it means that they do not what? Crisscross. In different scales, indicate the indifference scale that is on the higher side indicates higher satisfaction. So in different scales, 1, in different scale 1, in different scale 2, in different scale 3. So 3 is the highest of them all, followed by 2, and lastly by 1. So this property that we're talking about, which talks about higher in different scales, simply indicates that as you move further away from the origin, what is actually happening is you are having more higher satisfaction. Now I'm going to dominate on one point which came in the exam, which asks the implication of what? In different scales, crisscrossing. What is the implication? So in different scales, to start with, must never crisscross. But if they do, this is the implied aspect. So if they intersect, it implies that the consumers or a decision maker is indifferent to different combinations of goods and bundles. So the implications of them intersecting, number one, is as follows: equal preference. So when in different scales intersect, it indicates that a consumer has equal preference for bundles of goods represented by the intersecting points. In other words, a consumer is equally satisfied or indifferent to those combinations. So this implies that the consumer is willing to trade off one combination for the other, which is not possible. The other implication is in terms of the marginal rate of substitution, means the slope that is represented by one indifferent scale. At one point, if it intersects, it means that the consumer is also willing to substitute goods at the same rate for another slope. So this is not possible. Then the budget constraint, the intersection of indifferent scales, really plays a critical role in determining optimal bundle. So given a budget constraint, the consumer will seek to reach the highest indifference scale while satisfying the budget constraint. So at that point of tangency, the highest point of satisfaction is the point of tangency. So it obliterates the rule. So intersecting will mean these that I've talked about will be obliterated. Okay, so I'm going to take you through some calculus so that we can look at the formulas under different scales. So budget line is given the price of X times Px, price of Y times Y. The utility function is given by X power alpha, Y to the power beta. So when you differentiate the utility with respect to X, it is called the marginal utility of X. When you differentiate the du with respect to Y, this is called the marginal utility of what? Of Y. So if we're given a budget line of 150 and the price of good X is 10 kwacha, and the price of good Y is 5 kwacha. Can somebody tell me what is the budget line? And the utility is giving us 10x squared Y. So the budget line becomes 150 is equal to what? 10x plus what? 5y. This is a budget line. It is also called the optimization problem. You just put the price of X is what? 10 kwacha. Then put an X there. Plus the price of Y is what? 5 kwacha. Then you put a Y there. Are you together on the budget line?
Yes.
Then we also have what we call the optimal bundle. Optimal bundle, like we mentioned on the properties of indifference scales, Number one, in difference curve on the far right is the highest. Number two, they're downsloping. Number three, in difference curve at the point of tangency offers our optimum bundle. Optimum bundle occurs when the marginal utility of x divided by the price of x should be equal to the marginal utility of y times the price of y. Those of you who hate Lagrange, you can use this short formula. The Lagrangian function is given by utility function in terms of x and y plus lambda income minus price of x minus price of y. So I'll dominate on this one here. Let me do a quick reminder. If you're given the marginal, the utility function as x squared y, how do we differentiate this? The u over the x is called the marginal utility of what? X. So when you're differentiating this, which one is our dummy?
Y.
Y. You leave y as it is. You put it there. Then you differentiate 10x to the power 2. What do we get when you differentiate it?
20x.
20x.
Correct. Then again, you're going to differentiate 10x, 2, and y with respect to y. So du over dy is called the marginal utility of y. So what is our dummy in this case that we need to leave constant?
10x.
X squared, because we are only interested in y. So when we remove the 10x, we're going to remain with 10y. What is the derivative when differentiate 10y?
10.
10, correct. So our MUX is 10xy, our MUY is 10x squared. Who remembers what happens at the optimum bundle? MUX over price of x should be equal to what? MUY over price of what? Of y. Our MUX is 10xy, our MUY is 10x squared. So we divide both sides by the price of x and price of y. Our price of good x was 10 kwacha. Our price of good y was what? 5 kwacha. So let's divide. Here, 10 kwacha. Here, put what? 5 kwacha. You can cross multiply. At this point, before I proceed, are we together?
Mr. Collins,
Yes, we are.
can you come again on the view when we're finding x? This one.
When you're finding what?
When we're finding x here on the next step. Yeah, I wasn't clear.
The marginal utility of x.
The below one, this one.
Marginal utility of y.
Yes, that one.
So if you're differentiating this with respect to y, we're interested in the y. So leave the other letter as a dummy as it is. X squared. Don't do anything to it. Then meaning you're going to remain with the 10y. This 10 is for both of them. So 10y, when you differentiate 10y, what is the derivative? It's simply 10. Okay? So
All right.
2q4, 10q, 10, 2q3, q4, q half, q2. So when you differentiate 2q4 is what? 8q3. Those of you who are new to differentiation, just multiply the numbers, then subtract 1 from the power. 10q1 is simply what? 10. Derivative of a constant is 0. 2q3 is what? 6q2. Q4, there's an invisible one there. That is what? 4q3. Q half, differentiate it, is half q negative half. Q squared is what? 2q. These are just derivatives. If you have two functions like 5x, 6, y 10, if you're differentiating with respect to x, leave y as it is, y 10 as a dummy. Then 5x, 5 would be what? 5x6 would be 30x5. The same one, you can differentiate it with respect to y. So derivative of y with respect, derivative of u with respect to y, x6 is our dummy. We're going to remain with 5, y10. How together? 5y10 becomes 50 what? y9. Is that clear?
Yes, Mr. Collins.
Let's try together now. 5x6 minus 2x y minus 6 y2. So let's differentiate with respect to x. Only dealing with is x. What do we get here? 30.
30x5.
Then here, the y is a dummy. So when you differentiate 2x, it is 2. Here there's no x, so it is a 0. How about if you're differentiating with respect to y? Here there's no y. Here we're interested in the y, the x is our dummy. So we differentiate 2y, which is negative 2. 6y2 will be negative what? Of y. That is how we differentiate. So quick, can you remember? So this is how we differentiated this. So MUX is 20xy, and MUY is 10x2. Divide. So cross multiply 5 times 10 times 10 is 100. 20 times 20, 20 times 5 is 100. So we divide both sides. Look at the common. What is common throughout? There's 100 this side, and there's 100 there. What else is common? There's an x here and an x there. So meaning when you cancel that, so meaning you're going to remain with x is equal to y. Because our budget line was equal to what? Price of x as price of y. So our budget line was what? 150. The price of x was 10x. The price of y was 5y. And we've been told x is the same as y. So you can substitute where there's x, you put y. Or where there's y, you put x. The same thing. So 150 plus 5y. But since we found that our x is the same as y, so here we put y. So 150 is equal to, this is 10. 10 plus 5y, we're going to get what? 15y. So when we divide both sides, our y is equal to 150 minus 15, which is equal to 10. Since x is equal to y and y is equal to x, this 10 is the same value for the x and for the y. So if you're told to find the actual total utility, you can substitute in here now. Where there's x, we put what? 10. And where there's y, we put 10. So this is simply going to be 10,000 utils as the total utility. 10,000 as a total utility. So if you want to illustrate this, even if you're not told, I say don't leave an exam without a graph. And if they don't ask you here, you're maximizing at 10 units and 10 units. This is price for good y and good x. The utility function is what? You never know. Maybe even get bonus marks for impressing the lecturer, even on the things you did wrong. All right. Just on sketching now. Let me deviate. Like I said, I'll be moving zigzag so that I sing one song. Most of you have a problem in sketching. Here we have 150 is equal to what? 10x plus 5y. How do we sketch this? The letters on one side, leave them as they are. 10 into 150 is 15. 5 into 150 is 30. So how do we sketch it? On the y and on the x. It's cutting the y at what? It's cutting the y at 30 and cutting the x at what? 15. So this is how we sketch this equation. 150 is equal to 10x plus 5y. That is how we sketch such a graph. Are you together? So now this takes us to question number 5b. We're given the demand function. Now, demand and inverse, you need to understand one thing. We're given demand as 10 minus 0.5 p. This is the direct demand. You can make p subject here, and this one comes inside, this one comes there to be 0.5 is equal to 10 minus q. Okay. And this one we divide by 0.5 throughout. So our demand function will therefore be P is equal to 20 minus 2Q. This is what we call the inverse demand. It is only using the inverse demand that you can maximize. So revenue analysis or profit analysis, all these ones I taught you my song. You first need to find the function and differentiate and equate to 0 and so forth, Q and P. Never here maximize. Here optimizing. So if you want to maximize revenue, step 1, find the revenue function. Total revenue is equal to what? Price times quantity. Our price here is given as 20 minus 2Q. Whenever you're given the demand function in terms of Q, make P subject because it's easier like that, always. So step 1, find the function that you want to maximize with the total revenue. Step 2, differentiate it. The TR over the Q, this is called the marginal revenue. So our marginal revenue in this case is what? 20 minus 4Q. Step 3, equate to 0. So when you get to 0 here, we're going to have 20 minus 4Q is equal to 0. So solve for Q. So when you divide both sides by 4, we're going to find our Q is equal to 5. So whenever they ask you find the output is simply the Q. And whenever they ask you the price, simply substitute the price that you found there into this function here to find the other letter. 20 minus 2 what? 2Q. So this is 20 minus 10, which is 10. Let me not deviate from the question. And who knows, maybe this question may come exact. Some people are gifted with what? Gifts of memorizing with terrible exactness. So we're going to look at this function here. Q is given to 300 minus 2P. Q is equal to 300 minus 2P. Although you're spoon-fed, I want you to try on your own. Let's find the inverse demand for this one. What do we do? Find the inverse demand.
We make P subject to the formula.
So P goes this side, and here we have what? 1Q. People have a problem. There's always an invisible one there that they forget. So if you forget it, you have some challenge. So when you divide throughout, you're going to get 150 minus 0.5Q. So this is now what is called the inverse demand. And this is exactly how they found the 150 minus 0.5Q. Are we together so far? No sequel?
Mr. Collins, I'm a bit behind on that one. You were saying there is always a 1 in front of what?
I repeat, you're given this demand function here. make P subject to formula. When this one jumps, it will be a positive. When this one jumps, it will be a negative. So Q is same as 1Q. If there's no number there, just note as 1. Is that clear? Then to make P subject, you divide by 2 throughout. So this becomes P, this becomes 150, this becomes 0.5. So can you help me now? All of you, let's try to find the inverse demand for this demand function. What do we do?
OP is equal to
OP
400
400 minus 1Q.
What do we have? minus 0.25 what? Q. Then if they ask you to maximize the revenue, first find the total revenue function using the inverse demand, price times quantity. Then you are going to have 100 minus 0.25 Q. And when you put a Q there, you're going to have 100 Q minus 0.25 Q squared. This is our total revenue. Our marginal revenue, when you differentiate this will be 100. This will be 0.5 Q. I always tell you that those of you who are weak with what? Differentiation, just from the price itself. The rule is simply when you want to find the marginal revenue, it is simply A minus 2B Q. Just multiply a 2 to this number there and leave everything else the same. 0.25 times 2, 0.5. Then to become the marginal revenue. So if this one is supposed to become the marginal revenue, can somebody guess? How does it become marginal revenue? Simply 150 minus what? 1Q. That's the easiest way to jumping one step from the price to the total revenue to marginal revenue. It's not a shortcut, it's an acceptable procedure. All right. Then we solve what? For Q. It's 0.5 here. It's 200. So we divide by 0.5 on both sides. Q is equal to 200. Sorry, I'm indulging a lot in teaching because I want to help you understand. We're going back to this question here. The demand function.
Colin,
Yes, sir.
yeah, so from this question, they are saying find the inverse demand scale. This decimals in place of fraction. But the PX is equals to 150 minus 0.5 Q X. They have already given the inverse function.
There was a mistake. This was the answer. He was using the marking key. He forgot to rub it.
Yes, because this same question is the one which I shared with you, and the one which you got in the test.
It was here. Look.
He only gave So he only gave that.
He only gave this. So in the exam, he made a mistake. He gave you the answer, which we found, which is what? 150 minus 0.5 Q. So what I'm trying to say is that he gave you the answer. So this was a little bit confusing for people who don't know what was happening. So this is supposed to be rubbed so that you find it. So this is the answer itself. There's nothing you can do.
Okay then.
Is that clear?
Yes.
So I repeat. Now at Pedashan, Q. Q is equal to 150 minus 300 minus 2P. Sorry. 300 minus 2P. Malulu, help us find the inverse demand for this one. Malulu and Obi and Maggie, help us find the inverse demand. What do we do?
2P is equal to 300 minus Q1. And then we divide 2 throughout. So we find it's 150. There is 0.5.
Okay, somebody else to continue. How do you sketch this one now?
So on the y-axis,
First, you put the letters on one side.
yes.
Then,
So you divide 150 into 0.5.
1 into 150. 0.5 into 150. 300. So how do you sketch this?
On the P, there'll be 150. And then on the Q, there'll be 300.
Are we together so far? Are we together so far? Are we together so far?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So now let's go to the next part of the question. They're asking us to calculate the consumer surplus if the price is 45 kwacha. So the graph is very important. So we put 45 kwacha here on the price. First of all, what becomes the quantity here? So we substitute to where there's the price, we put 45. But we know what the quantity is. Okay, they'll swap 0.5. Q is good, what? 190 minus 45. What do we get? Nosika, are you there?
I'm here, Mr. Collins.
So what do we get? And divide both sides by 0.5.
190 or 150?
Oh, it's 150, not 190. 150 minus 45, what do we get?
105.
105, okay. Then 105 divided by 0.5,
210.
210. So quantity will be 210. So here we put at 210. So we're calculating the consumer surplus. What's the question asking us? Compute the what? Find consumer surplus. So what is the triangle for the consumer surplus? Here we have, from here to here we have what?
105.
105. From here to here we have what? 210. What's the formula?
16.
Consumer surplus? Half of the base times the height. The base is
That should be 11025.
that should be 11025. Correct. So that is how we find the consumer surplus. 11025. Is that what we got in the miracle kit? Let us check. Yes, I showed this in the miracle kit. So 11025, I illustrated here and also illustrated there. So this is what we have found, the consumer surplus. Now, the second part of the question is asking, suppose instead the price was 30 kwacha. What is the consumer surplus? 2 marks. So here it's the same thing. So at 30 kwacha, we have this 30 kwacha. We know here it's cutting at what? It's cutting at 150 and 300 there. Although we don't need the 300, we just need to know the figure that will come here. What was our inverse demand function? Inverse demand function was what? 150 minus 0.5Q. So price has been given as 30, so this price will put 30 there. So when this one goes there, we're going to have 0.5Q is equal to 150 minus 30. So here we're going to have 120. So our Q here will be 240. So this is where the 240 is coming from. So Maggie, give me the dimensions of the triangle again. What is our base and what is our height?
Q is 240.
The base is 240 and the height?
The height is 120.
The height is 120. So what is the consumer surplus? How do you get the 120? The difference between 30 and 150. Are we all following? Are we moving together?
Yes, we are. So in this case, consumer surplus should be 14400.
Consumer surplus will be the 144,000. These are the people who go to heaven without tasting death. 144,000. Okay. $144. You said it's 14,400, isn't it?
Yes.
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 Are we following? Are we appreciating how tough this paper was?
Yes. So far, so good.
All right. So we are now going to the last part of the question. In general, will the level of consumer surplus increase, decrease, or remain the same as the price of a good falls? In general, will the level of the price, the level of the consumer surplus increase, decrease, or remain the same as the price of the good falls? What will happen?
In this case, you should be able to increase.
So as the price of the good falls, what happens to the consumer surplus?
You should be able to increase.
Increase. Okay. So what type of a good is good X?
It's a normal good.
So in general, as the price of a good falls, the level of consumer surplus will do what? Will increase. This is because as the price falls, consumer is willing to pay more of a good. And some consumers who obviously from the previous price level unwilling or unable to buy that good because it was high, now they'll be able to purchase more of it. So this results in an increase in the total consumer surplus. So what type of a good is it? Based on the information, we can't basically tell whether it's a normal good, whether it's an inferior good. But what we can tell for sure that the type of good that depends on income. If the income goes up, it becomes a normal good. If the demand goes down for the income, it's an inferior good. Also, we know that if it is a complement, it should mean that the price of the other good would have gone down. So it will be a complement under cost price elasticity. So here you need to objectively answer that question. It was not a guessing question. Are we together?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this takes me now to the concept of elasticity. Elasticity measures, what is elasticity? I'm going to ask.
Yes, yes.
Students that are writing tomorrow a final exam. What is elasticity?
Colin,
Uh-huh.
yeah, maybe in simple terms, I was going to say elasticity is the responsiveness of demand due to changes in one of the determinants of demand. For example, like price.
And give me the types of elasticity that we know.
There is
Right.
price elasticity of demand, then cost elasticity of demand, then income elasticity of demand.
Excellent. So elasticity is a measure of responsiveness or sensitivity of one variable changing due to the other. It quantifies the percentages change relative to the other variable. So elasticity is widely used in economics to measure the relationships. There are four types. We'll talk about any three. There's what we call price elasticity of demand, which measures the responsiveness of quantity demanded to changes in the price of a good or a service. And it's calculated as a percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price, where the price elasticity of demand falls in three categories. It is elastic if the absolute value is greater than 1. What we mean, forgetting the negatives, but elasticity of demand is always negative. So if the absolute value is greater than 1, then we consider demand to be elastic, which means that quantity demanded is highly responsive to any small or slight changes in the prices. So inelastic demand is when the absolute value of the price elasticity of demand is less than 1. So it is considered to be inelastic. This simply implies that demand is not very responsive to the price changes, resulting to a relatively smaller percentage in the quantity demanded. So if we increase price by 10%, then we are going to experience a reduction in quantity demanded by maybe 5% or 3%. But if we increase our price by 10% and we lose quantity demanded by more than 10%, for instance, 20%, demand is what sensitive, is elastic. But the measure by which we increase the price, if it's reflective of the smaller measure by which we lose demand, then we call that inelastic. We call it unitary elastic when the price increase in percentage is equivalent to the price decrease. Then we call that unit elastic. Tamenji, are we following?
Yes.
Right. Then we go to a second type of elasticity, which is called income elasticity. Can somebody tell me about income elasticity? So we already said price elasticity of demand is given by what? Percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in price. So if we're given that elasticity of demand is -2 and percentage change in price increases by 10%, what is the percentage change in quantity demanded? We substitute elasticity of demand is what? Percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in price. So here we put -2 is equal to percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in what? In price. Its percentage change in price has been given as what? 10%. So if you cross multiply, it means the percentage change in quantity demanded is equal to 2 times what? 10, which is 20%, which is elastic. So what is the implication of a percentage rise by 10%? Meaning we're going to lose demand by 20%. This is when demand is elastic. Suppose instead here, we are told that the same percentage change is what? 10%, but here instead of 0.2 is -2, we put 0.2. So we cross multiply. -0.2 is equal to percentage change in quantity demanded over the percentage change of 10%. So what happens here when cross multiply? Percentage change in quantity demanded will be 10 times what? 2. 0.2. So we're going to get -2%. So it means demand is inelastic. And by so saying, we are going to increase price by 10% and reduce the quantity demanded by 2%. This is what makes elasticity important for pricing decisions. So elasticity is important for many reasons, like I've talked about. Okay, what is the importance of elasticity of demand? Pricing decisions. Elasticity is important for pricing decisions because we'll be able to tell at which point to increase, at which point not to increase. So it is important for pricing and revenue management. It helps the business to determine the optimal pricing strategies by understanding the price elasticity of demand. Firms can also gauge how the changes in price will affect the quantity demanded. So if it is elastic, you shouldn't make ridiculous price increases because you'll potentially lose our revenue. So in that point, you need to decrease price. You see how when Minimio has been very sensitive and everyone is selling at 200 kwacha, you'll be intelligent to study that 90 kwacha, 199.99 or 190 people buy to boost your revenues. Elasticity is also important for market efficiency because it provides information about the efficiency of resource allocation. So when demand and elasticity and supply are elastic, it means that very small price changes will lead to substantial adjustments in the quantity traded, thereby indicating that resources are being allocated efficiently. In contrast, if the demand and supply is inelastic, it simply means that the significant price changes in any variable, especially price, will suggest potential market inefficiencies. So elasticity is also important for taxes in government policy because it plays a vital role in the impact that taxes have in the economy. So by understanding the price elasticity of demand, the government will be aware when to increase and when not to increase fuel, because they will understand that these consumer goods will not only check them out of office in terms of votes, but they will affect the quality or standards of living in a particular country. How else is elasticity important? Elasticity is important for forecasting purposes. So it is important for forecasting and planning because in forecasting future market trends and informed decision making, we need to consider elasticity of demand. So firms will anticipate how these changes like price and income competition will influence consumer behavior. So this information will be important for production planning. Elasticity is important in international trade because it is helpful in analyzing the effects of the trade policies and international trade flows. So by understanding elasticity of demand for imports and exports, countries can assess the impact of their tariffs and quotas on the exchange rates. So this is what either devalues a country's exchange rate or not by not or failure to understanding the elasticity. So consumer welfare, elasticity is closely related to consumer welfare. So when consumers are more elastic, they will adjust their consumption choices more easily to respond to price changes, thereby maximizing their satisfaction. And so elasticity can indicate potential benefits to the consumers, gaining from lower prices and increased variety. Elasticity is also important for resource allocation and efficiency. Elasticity provides insights into how resources are allocated across different industries and goods. So with supply or demand, when supply and demand are more elastic, resources are more easily reallocated to sectors with higher demand or more efficient production, thereby promoting an overall economic efficiency and growth. So price elasticity of demand using the inverse function A minus BQ is simply given by elasticity of demand 1 over B times price over quantity. So if we have price elasticity 10 minus 2Q, then we're given the Q is equal to what? 3. So when you put 3 in there, our P will be what? 10 minus 6, which is what? 4. The B is a gradient. In this case, the B is what? Negative 2. So elasticity of demand using the inverse elasticity demand function, we simply do 1 over. 1 over means inverse. That's why the name comes inverse demand. The price we calculated as 4. The quantity we're given as 3. So this will give us 4 over negative 6, which is negative 0.67. So we say elasticity, if the absolute value of elasticity is greater than 1, it means it is elastic. If the absolute value of elasticity is equal to 1, it means it is unitary. If the absolute value of elasticity is less than 1, it is inelastic. So this guy is inelastic because it's less than 1. All right. So the same function, if we're given a different function, which is given by Q, is equal to 10 minus what? 2P. And we're told that our P, for instance, is 2 kwacha. Meaning when you put the 2 there, 10 minus 4 is 6. Our slope in this case will be what? Negative 2. So whenever Q is subject to the formula, we use a direct demand function, the elasticity function. We don't do the inverse. We just try to write B over PQ. This is one of the best lectures I'm going to give because it's preparing you for an exam. So you need to listen to me carefully. Our slope in this case is what? Negative 2. Our price is what? Positive 2, as was given. The quantity is what? 6. So here we're going to have negative 4 over 6. Then we're going to have negative 0.67. So here demand is what? Also inelastic. Inelastic. We have also a certain type of elasticity, which we call, but before I go to the second type of elasticity, income elasticity, can also calculate elasticity between ranges. If price of good X is 10 kwacha and it increases to 12 kwacha, and causing quantity to reduce from 500 units to maybe 400 units, what is the elasticity of demand? So using points Q1 minus Q2, let's say Q2 minus Q1 over Q1 divided by P2 minus P1 over P1. So what is our Q2? 400 minus what? 500. Are you sure? 400 minus 500 is divided by 500 will be equal to P2 12 minus what? 10 divided by 10. So on top, we're going to have elasticity, which is 100 over 500 divided by 2 over what? 10. So here we're going to have 0.2 negative, because this was a negative. And 2 over 10 is what? 0.2. So in this case, our elasticity of demand will be negative 1. So if it's exactly 1, we call that unit elastic. It is unitary. So the other type of elasticity that you need to be interested in is the income elasticity of demand. Income elasticity of demand. The income elasticity of demand is important because it measures the responsiveness of demand due to changes in income. So if the demand measures responsiveness of income due to income, so it is simply given by the elasticity of demand is what? The Q over the P times price over quantity. The elasticity of income is Q over the Y times Y over income. Cost price elasticity is the Q over the price of Y times price of Y over quantity of X. So whenever we're dealing with income elasticity of demand, it only becomes a normal good if we get a positive answer, and becomes an inferior good if it is a negative answer. Any questions at this point? Are we enjoying the miracle lessons, especially for the beginners? Are we following fluently?
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
we are following, but hey, the formulas,
Don't mind the formulas, don't worry. I'll
do
show
they?
you how to simplify them. You know how I do it.
Because the challenge here is to just relate that income elasticity formula is you use this one, for price you use this one, and for the cross price elasticity. And then also, okay.
Just
The
basta
price-
say that the price elasticity is P here in this diagonal. This is always the same. There's DQ.
What is the difference between these formulas and the ones for owner's price formula and cross price and income elasticity of demand?
Price elasticity of demand is the same as own price elasticity. It's one and the same thing. Cross price elasticity is you're crossing from one good to the other. So here, if you get a negative, it is a complement. So negative elasticity is a complement. Positive, it is what? Substitute good. When we come to income elasticity of demand, if we get positive, it's called a normal good. If you get a negative, it is called an inferior good. So a normal good simply means that as income goes up, the quantity demanded will go up. An inferior good simply means that when your income goes up, the quantity demanded will go quantity demanded will go down. For instance, Salaola clothes, second-hand clothes, so the income goes up, we demand less of them. Are we together? Please, at this moment, you just have no option but to tell your brain, please understand what. Understand this, you have no option tonight. Just bargain with your brain. Just bargain with your brain. Can't afford to mess you up. So I'm going to take you through question number 3, which is cross price, elasticity, income, and interpreting them. All right, so I'm going to take you through an example first of all. So I've adopted babies in here. So those ones that are behind, please. Are we together?
It's making sense.
It's making sense. All right. So now let me do a function for you. Then we go to the exam question. If you have Q is equal to 3 minus 2 px minus 3 py plus 4m. And we're given that the price of x is 1 kwacha, price of y is 2 kwacha, income is 5 kwacha. Calculate the quantity. So 3 minus 2, here we put 1, 3 times 2, here we put 4, and you put a 5 there. So this is 3 minus 2 minus what? 6 plus 20. So the quantity in this case would be what? 3 minus 2 is 1. 1 minus 6 is minus 5. Minus 5 plus 20 is what? 15. So our Q.
15.
All right. So can you fail to get a 15? Just substituting. Now look at these two goods. There's good X and good Y. If the signs are the same, they are complementing each other. If the signs are different, if here there's a plus, they're opposing or competing. This will be substitute good. Now, find on price elasticity. There are 3 slopes here. There's a slope for good X.
That's what calling. So you said if the signs are the same, like here it's minus minus. Huh?
Yeah.
What?
Minus minus. So it means they are complementary goods. Okay. So we are going to look at the 3 types of elasticity. We have what we call on price elasticity. So on price elasticity is X against X. So we're going to get the slope for good X. Everything about X you're dealing with. Okay, times the price of good X over the quantity of good X. So what is the slope for good X? -2. The actual price of good X was given as what? 1. And the quantity we just calculated for good X is what? 15. So what is the price elasticity of demand or on price elasticity of demand? It is 2 over 15. What do we get? -0. What? -0.13. So here, what is the comment? Is it inelastic or elastic? It is inelastic. All right.
Mr. Collins, why have we used this formula than the ED one?
It's the same one because we're getting the direct demand. Remember when I was saying if you have given Q is equal to 2 minus 0.5 P. The gradient here, this is your B. B here is what? If you had a 4 maybe here. B here is negative 0.5. If you're given a price of maybe 2, you put price 2 there, half of 2 is 1. So meaning our quantity will be what? 3. So elasticity of demand is what? B times price over quantity. So our slope here is what? Negative 5, 0.5. The price is 2, and the quantity is what? 3. So when you divide that, we're going to get 0.33 negative. So you say demand is inelastic. That's the principle we're using here. Since Q is subject to the formula, we're using B times price over quantity. So our B here, except that there are a lot of B's. The B for good X is what? Minus 2. The actual price is 1, and the quantity is 15. Then we get negative 0.133. Then cross price elasticity, it's moving, same as XY, from good X to good Y. The formula is B for good Y and the price of good Y over quantity of good X. So it's moving from good Y to good X. What is the slope for good Y? Minus 3. The price for good Y was 2 over what? 15. So here we get 6 over 15 negative. So what is 6 over 15? Negative 0.4. So this negative simply means that, who remembers the song that we said? For cross price elasticity, what is the song? C complement, it's a negative. S, it's a positive elasticity. So since we got a negative, it's called a complement. X and Y are complements. Then finally, the song for income elasticity, positive, it is a normal good. Inferior good, it is a negative. So let's see here. We calculate our cross price elasticity of demand. Okay. So cross price, not cross price, income elasticity of demand. Gradient for the income times the actual income. Income can be denoted by Y or M, it's the same thing as the quantity of X. So what is our gradient for the income? 4. The actual income, 5. The gradient here was what? 15. So this is 20 over 15. So it's a positive answer. 20 divided by 15.
1.33.
1.33. What type of a good is this?
Normal good.
Excellent. It's a normal good. Now let's go to the exam. My people perished because of what? Lack of knowledge and understanding. So we're looking at question number 3. So we're given this equation here. Just by looking, first of all, we have a function for coconut oil in relation to the price of coconut oil in kwacha, the income of coconut oil, and also PP is the price of palm oil. What's the relationship between coconut oil and palm oil? As you can see from there, are they complementing each other or are they substitutes?
Substitute.
Yes, because the signs are different. All right. So we can calculate it. The first thing is we'll be given the values to put in. The price of palm oil, 45. Coconut oil, 45, palm oil, 31. And the income is what? 1275. So we're going to substitute there. This question is coming, 10 marks. Let my people go. Come on, money fee, please. Go for them quickly. These ones are better than explaining because I know most of you will be guessing. You can't guess in this course. where you can calculate, please go calculate. So PP is 31 and 0.2. Y is what? 1275. Okay, so 1275. Let's substitute. What are we getting in substitute? Question number 3, since people are lazy to.
No, I can't see the screen. We found it in the.
Found it where? When you substitute 45, 81, and
We were provided the substitute.
okay. So if you're calculating this, what are you getting as your Q?
Well, it's in the question, doesn't it say that Q is already given as 1275? So how are we still calculating for Q?
Okay. We are told in the question that Q is 1275.
Like Y. The Y is the one we have to
It's
calculate.
supposed to be Y, I don't know why. So whenever you say that, you should raise your hand to say, sir, is that supposed to be Q? Okay, how did I solve this one? So we're given Q as 1, 12, what? 75. So we take it that it is as it is. So there's no need to substitute here because we haven't been given Y, we've just been given this and that. Then the quantity is 1275. Okay, even better. So meaning our Q is what? 1275. Thank you for that. Then how do we find on price elasticity of demand? This is X against X, right? The gradient for X is what? Negative 9.5. The actual price of X is what?
45.
5. Over there, Q is what? 1275. Regardless of whatever you get, to be 0 point something negative. This is inelastic. How about cross price elasticity? You get 16.2. I still strongly believe this was supposed to be Y because they also asked for income elasticity. You get what I'm trying to say? Are we following? I still strongly
Yes.
this was supposed to be Y because they can't ask you for income elasticity. So you raise your hand to find out clarity from this part here. Because after you substitute all these, you get a quantity, then you're going to use the partial derivatives of what we're doing. Okay. So here you get 0.33, which is inelastic. Then cross price elasticity, you get a positive answer. It means that there's what? It means that they are substitutes. You don't need to explain this in depth to say what percentage. For those of you be reading my revision kit. Then income elasticity, I made an assumption that this was supposed to be the case. That was supposed to be the income elasticity. But if it does that, you can make an assumption of any figure. But also still, even if you're making an assumption, what it should guide you is that if income has a positive answer there, just know that it's a normal good. If there's negative there, just know that it's an inferior good. So I'm just giving you hints of how to go about it. Are we together?
Mr. Collins, so you said the income elasticity is what? What percentage is it at?
I'm saying there are two options here. If this wasn't a mistake to be your income elasticity, well and good, it's fine, use it. But when they ask you to calculate the income elasticity of demand, you can assume any figure, say 1,000 watts, calculate the income elasticity. But here, since this has a positive gradient, whenever income has a positive gradient, just need to say normal good. If there was a negative, it's an inferior good. That's all. All right, so this question, explain any three factors that determine the price elasticity of demand. Should a firm increase, decrease, or maintain the price in order to maximize its revenue? Who wants to answer that? I already mentioned that. Anyone? Okay, I assume you have understood it. So I'll pass that question, isn't it? We agree? I talked about those ones. And I labored so hard. Like I said, when you're writing exams, think about me as well, not only your lecturers. Don't embarrass me tomorrow. For the sake of Malulu, I'll explain it again, just for her sake. So three factors that affect demand is availability of close substitutes. So substitutes refer to the presence of close alternatives. And these could be in place of the original good that we are looking at. So if there are close substitutes available, consumers have more options. So demand becomes elastic. But if there are no close options, we have limited substitutes, demand is inelastic. And so the changes in price are relatively have a smaller impact on the quantity demanded, because people, you can play around with prices and charge people because they know close substitutes. The other factors that affect elasticity is whether it's a necessity or a luxury. Luxurious goods are goods which in nature are goods we can do without, whereas necessities are services that are essential for you and me, such as food, medicine, and utilities, which you cannot do without. So necessities tend to be inelastic in the sense that consumers are willing to pay even higher prices to obtain them. That's what it means to be inelastic, because they need them. Luxurious goods, on the other hand, are an option. They're non-essential goods, in other terms. So consumers are willing to trade off. For instance, if you don't have an aircon, you get a fan. They are able to switch to the nearest alternatives. Another factor that affects demand is the time horizon, because the length of time that consumers have to adjust their consumption pattern in response to changes. In the short run, demand is inelastic because consumers will not have the flexibility and time to adjust, right? Because there's only one person providing tuition. You have no choice. You just are stuck and you're writing an exam. So demand becomes inelastic. But in the long run, you discover that actually there are actually more people who are able to teach. It becomes elastic. You can switch to any other person. So this is what time horizon talks about. I plead, don't guess, get to understand. So should the firm increase, decrease, or maintain the price? Maggie, are you there? So
Yes,
here's
I'm
the
here.
response. So regarding whether the firm should increase, decrease, or maintain the price depends on the elasticity of demand. So if it is elastic, it means any small price change will lead to a proportionally larger change in quantity demanded. So if a firm chooses to decrease the price relative to revenue, it will increase the revenue. So if you lower the price, just now more people will come and buy. If you just hear that Collins is reduce the prices for tutorials, everyone would want to come. Holding all things constant, remember, without comparing to say this colleague teaches better and is slower and has time. Holding all things, everyone is teaching the same, so you have higher revenue. So this will lower the price. It will therefore cause an increase in quantity sold to compensate in the reduction in price. Therefore, you're going to have what? A higher total revenue. If it is inelastic, it means that the change in price is relatively small to affect the quantity demanded. So in this case, the firm should consider increasing prices whatsoever so that the demand is less responsive to price changes. So if you're the only one that is providing tuition and you increase the price, people have no option, they just complain but buy. As a result, you increase the price to a substantial level so as to do what? So as to increase your total revenue. Are we together so far? Are we following? Any questions so far?
Yes.
Is it making sense? Noseko, are you there?
Yes, Mr. Collins, I'm here.
Where's your friend, Esther? Is she there?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So Esther, if demand is unit, that means COMSA 50-50. The percentage by which you're going to increase is the percentage by which you're going to lose out on demand. So what I'm trying to say is when demand is inelastic, that's the best time to increase price to increase your revenue. When demand is elastic, that's the best price to play around with prices so as to capture a total revenue which is higher. So this is how it just goes. Right. So now let me take you to question number 4, where we're going to use this equation to optimize 10 marks. Optimize profit and find the total profit. All right. To start with, if you're given the profit function, which is given by the function that I've given you there, profit function is given as follows. Profit is equal to that. And you're asked to maximize or to optimize profit. What do we do? The profit function is given by that function. What do we do? So in that case, I've given you my steps that I've given you. Okay, so you need to find the partial derivatives. So step 1, you need to find the values of X and Y that maximize the profit itself. Firstly, find the function which is already there. Then you need to differentiate it. So let's find the partial derivative. So we're differentiating with respect to x, we're differentiating with respect to y. Let's go together. X, what are we going to have here? 144, right? Here, we're going to have what? 6x. Then here we're going to have minus y. But differentiating with respect to y, there's no y there, there's no y there. We're going to start from here. We're going to have minus what? Minus x. Then here, 2y squared, what are we going to have?
4y.
Minus 4y. And there,
120 plus 120.
120. So we have equation 1 and equation 2. All together? All together so far? Step 1, differentiate. Step 2, equate to 0. So these two equations we're going to equate to 0. This one and that one we equate them to 0. Okay. Are we there? Then we're going to solve them simultaneously.
Can I just see that you removed it?
You can see it? So just equate to 0.
Yes.
When you go to 0 here, these two come here. So 6x plus y is equal to 144. You get to 0, these ones will go inside x plus y. So y is equal to 120. Are we together so far? So when you get them to 0, or you can just equate them to constant if you want. All right, then what do? Solve them simultaneously. So when solve them simultaneously, you can solve for y maybe in the first equation here, make y subject. So this one and this one goes aside. I'm using substitution method. You can use even the elimination method. So this is my y. When this guy goes inside and this one goes inside, the positives are going to remain with. Or let me just say, you just make y subjects. So when this one goes inside, you're going to have 144 minus 6 will be y. Are we together on this one? On finding the y, are we together?
No, just a bit.
The y just jumps this side. So we're going to have 144 minus 6x is equal to y. Is that clear?
Okay.
Yes, it is.
And now we substitute this where there is y, we put it in here. So where there's 4 here, we put 144 minus 6x. So let's multiply this by that, we get this. This by that, we get this. Then 120 remains there. So 1 to solve for x. So we're going to add this one, plus that one negative 2, this one, and that one positive that. Then when this one goes aside, to subtract, we divide both sides by 23. So x is equal to 19. So it's 26. Are we together so far?
Mr. Collins, can I see the last part?
Can you go through it again?
From here, when the y goes
I
aside,
think I'm a bit behind Mr. Collins. Sorry to take you back on the differentiating in respect to x. So I understand the 144. And so we leave out the x from the 144 because we are differentiating with regards x. And then the 6x, I know where it's coming from. And then there on the xy, we leave out the x because we are differentiating x, isn't it?
no, we keep the y. Then we differentiate negative 1x is negative 1. So negative 1x is differentiated. The y is a dummy. We keep the y, but we differentiate negative 1x, which is 1. That's why we remained with y. All these don't have x, y is x's, so they are zeros, they are constants.
Oh, okay. And then with regards y?
The same thing. There's no y here, there's no y. We are going to start from here. We're interested in the y. X is our minus x, we put it there. Then we're going to have minus 1y, which is minus 1. So you leave it, minus 1 is like invisible. Then 2y squared is 4y. 120y is 120. The 35 is a constant to fall off.
Okay.
And these are the two equations we equate to 0. So this one here now is the one that we want to make subject of formula. So this one, when the y goes this side, we're going to have 144 and x is equal to y. Are we together?
Mm-hmm.
Then we put this one in here. Negative x minus 4, 144 minus 6x plus 120 is equal to 0. So we just want to solve for x. That is where we came here. So our x was 19.82. Then to find y, after finding 19.82, we now go where we found our y is equal to 144 minus 6x. So y is equal to 144 minus 6x, where there's x, we put what? 19.82. So we're going to get approximately our y will be 20.44. So how many units of x will maximize 19 point what? 8. And how many units of y? 20.44. Then the other part, they'll ask you now, find the maximum profit. So you now need to substitute here where there's x, you put what? 19.82. Where there's y, you put 20.44. So that you find the maximum value of the profit, which is 1880.13. That is how you're supposed to solve that.
Oh, so the last one, we're using both answers, the y and the x in the formula. We just replace where they are.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just to see. All right, so anyone behind? Please face.
Mr. Collins, bring it back. I just wanted to. Yes. Let's see.